Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Let the filibustering begin.
Welcome to Nerd Party.
Hello and welcome to the second podcast that's dropping on day 10 of our coverage of the Edinburgh International Film Festival. I'm joined by Anthony Bynre, the co-writer and director of a new thriller called In Darkness. Anthony Bynre co-wrote the script with his partner and lead actor Natalie Dormer. I'm joined first by Anthony, and then we have some red carpets with Natalie Dormer and again with Anthony. In Darkness sees Dormer playing Sofia, a blind musician drawn into London's criminal underbelly when her neighbour Veronica dies in the apartment above her. Initially, police believe it's suicide, but Veronica, the daughter of an alleged war criminal, knew she was in trouble. Caught between the police and criminals, Sofia must try to survive. Hope you'll enjoy our interview and seek out this film in UK cinemas from July 6th. It's a hell of a ride and a film that will be best experienced with a crowd. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks to Natalie and Anthony for giving up their time to speak with me today. Enjoy the show. Thank you very much for joining me here today and stuff like that. So how does it feel to be bringing your movie here to Edinburgh?
I was just answering that upstairs. I hadn't actually thought about it. I thought about it a couple of days ago, but I didn't have an answer that I'd prepared. It's what I'd said was that it's hugely important because festivals like this is an A-list festival, they legitimize your movie. And it's really, really important for the life of a film. So it's great to be here. It's my first time at the festival, second time in Edinburgh, but it was about 25 years ago. I was in the Scouts. We came here camping.
Because when I was watching it, like as you can imagine, with it being a festival, I've watched a lot of films here at the festival, and none are as striking visually as yours. Like I was genuinely blown away that first the tracking shot where it's in the orchestral room.
Yeah,
it was just like. And I tried, pardon the pun here, but I went into that movie blind. I was like, right, it's about a blind woman, okay, we'll see what it is. And what I loved about it was it kept growing and expanding. At the beginning I thought, this is a small kind of movie about a musician, and then it expands outwards, it's a murder mystery, then it expands out further. And I was genuinely impressed by that. What was the kind of the process for both of you and Natalie, as the co-writer and star of the movie, of bringing this movie together, and how did that story grow to the way it did?
It came about because we were. These are the movies we love, genuinely. I'd made a couple of movies that I wasn't happy with or happy about, and I then sort of sat down and was like, if I had another chance to make a movie, what would it be? And I love that genre, psychological thrillers. They're the kinds of movies that we would watch at home together. We'd watch old Hitchcock movies, Polanski movies. Conversation, Clute, Night and Day, anything like that. And so when I started thinking about the film, it was really trying to make a movie that we would watch. It was like, what would we want to sit down and watch that we'd go, oh man, that was a lot of fun. It's not a social issue movie. It's not Citizen Kane, but we wanted to make a really good psychological thriller that we would hope would kind of be added into the canon of really good psychological thrillers, with a strong central female protagonist. So that was really the brief that we set ourselves. What you're referring to is that opening was, I want to give away the movie in the opening scene, but it has to be something that's nothing to do with the movie, but you're basically telling the audience, if they're pay attention. Or everything you're about to see is not what it seems.
Yeah, because you talk about like it's those films that you mentioned there that inspired you. One of my favourite parts of the movie was the sound design, the use of music and sound. It creates such a great atmosphere and attention. What was the kind of creative process for putting that all together to create that? Like that piece of music is lovely. That just kind of scores the movie in a very interesting way.
I'd worked with Byrne, the composer, who was a very good friend of mine, and not a relation, but we had worked on a couple of another film and a few TV dramas over the years, and I knew he would be great at sort of coming up with that language that was going to bridge the score and the emotion, the sort of emotional subtext of Sofia, but also be part of the film in the film. So he really nailed that. Again, it always just went back to movies that we loved, and going back to the structure. And that was the thing that we kept trying to break, and building layers upon layers, coming up with a visual grammar as well that I knew early on we would have to do. Sound became a huge part of that, and it was a conversation that we were having when we were writing. We never put any of that into the screenplay, nor did we put in any camera movements. We only wanted the script to be a script. We did all the post in Berlin, and I met this guy. I had a guy in London that never really cracked it, and so we parted company, and then I met this German sound designer, and he sent me his reel, and I went, wow, he's really got it, something. And then he came to London, and he went around to all the locations, and he recorded new sound, all clean, and I worked with him for, I don't know, 3 or 4 months or something like that. It was a very long time, longer than you would expect on a movie that has like no money. He was just really passionate about it. It's also a gift for a sound designer. And then I worked with Niall in terms of bridging sound and music, so you were kind of blurring the line of what sound design is, and I really pushed Sebastian, who was the sound designer, and kept pushing it, and it got a little bit tense from time to time.
But I suppose it's a great art that's been produced out of that kind of relationship.
And it's a language thing as well. I'm not in front of him all the time, but I was sending him stuff. And one of the key influences, actually, which I haven't mentioned before to anybody, was I remember watching the first season of The Girlfriend Experience, and the sound design of that is amazing. And I remember telling him to watch it, and he went and bought it or downloaded it or whatever he did, and then we started talking about that, because they built really interesting soundscapes. But you have to sort of build it at the beginning and then let it sort of start to slip away as everything else sort of slips away, but you don't really notice it over the course of the movie.
One thing that I particularly enjoyed about the movie, and I think there'll be such an audience demand for it, is that it's just, you mentioned at the start, it's a strong female character leading an action movie, and it's an original character as well, and that there's so much debate about gender, recasting of roles, or people will say, well, let's go create roles, let's go things out. And the fact that this is a role co-written by a female, acted, female original character, was that something that you saw at the beginning of going, this could be a movie that is going to add to statement, or could be something more? Was it just like,
no, because we wrote it so long ago, we're just kind of in sync with what's going on right now in the industry, which is amazing. But somebody said to me when I was much younger that everything that I was writing or wanted to do, they all start female characters. And so in the short films, my first feature film, they were all female characters, and I hadn't really given it much thought, but they're far more complex characters, I think, than if they were played by male characters in the previous stuff that I'd done. And I want to continue that. Nat, when we started writing it, was at a very particular place in her career where she wasn't being offered roles that she was excited by. So that's why that was important to her. But she was writing it solely as a writer, not to be in it, because she wasn't at that place in her career where she could be. And we were always very real. There were very real people in that regard, and where we are in the business and where we want to get to. And the thing is, you can't do it on your own. You need really good people around you. And through circumstance, talent, luck, timing, we ended up with an amazing creative team. But Nat is a very intelligent woman. I think she's a really fine actress, super talented, and she's a force of nature. She's a very charismatic person. So to sit with her and to write the script over however many years, on and off, there were periods where I was working or she was working, but we'd have blocks of time where we'd hit it, and we had it up on the wall, and we'd argue, we'd laugh, it would be fun. Paper would get torn up, there'd be doors slammed, lots of laughter. It was like a kind of ongoing thing over years of doing it, but always trying to come up with this great female character. And really, the biggest note that we gave ourselves and that kept coming back was not to make her too passive. And so you have to make her passive at the beginning in order to set the character up. And we were always struggling with where do we activate Sofia, basically, in the script. And for a long time we had it like it was in the middle of the movie. So there was a long time where you were with her and you were really kind of going, you were playing with the audience in terms of who is she, what's she doing, where is she going, is she who she says she is. And then ultimately we found that sort of sweet spot.
Absolutely, and it's that moment of picture perfect when
and you
I
go,
didn't expect this.
I didn't know that was going to happen. And then you do the whole, is she blind, is she not blind, and then you double down on that and you compound these things and you make them go away because there's two viewers for these movies. I would generally sit and just watch that movie and let it tell the story to me. Nat would probably be the one who would be there going, I bet it's this, I bet it's that, you know, and so they're the two dynamics that end up watching these kinds of movies. So that's the fun of those movies, and that's why we always love sitting down watching The Conversation and Clute and Marnie and Frenzy and all of these things, because and Laura, going way back, there was loads of movies like that we would just sit down and watch over and over.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I know how busy you are, and I wish you all the best with the movie. It's
double whammy.
It's no problem. Welcome to Edinburgh. How does it feel bringing a film that not only you've written but starring as well to Edinburgh Film Festival?
It's a real pinch me moment. I was a jury member here at the film festival a handful of years ago for the foreign film, our Best Foreign Film Award. I love the Edinburgh Film Festival. I love its ethos, and it's got a great heritage, and its 72nd year to be here. With my European premiere of my movie that's taken me 9 years to get to this spot is pretty bloody special. So thank you for having me, Edinburgh.
You're welcome. How was it when you were on set trying to balance up your writing duties? And it's written by that point, but there's always sort of work to be done and acting at the same time.
The best thing in the world is when Ed Skrein or Neil Maskell or the gorgeous James Cosmo turns round to you and goes, Nat, in this scene, do you mind if I change this line to this? And you're like, oh my God, yes, that's so much cooler than what I wrote. And it's amazing to be in that position where you feel like you have the dynamic with your co-stars to be able to riff like that. My other cast was so supportive of what I was attempting to do. I felt really supported by them.
Here you are, obviously, at the festival. Do you feel a bit frustrated that you've had to write and create a female lead role, one that portrays like a female in a lead role, and one that has a disability as well? Is there a frustration that there's not more of these roles, or is there an excitement that you're championing these roles, that there you are on the forefront?
It's both. It's every gift a burden, every burden a gift. Yes, God, of course there should be more complex, flawed, three-dimensional female protagonists, but I think that conversation is starting to be had now. Well, it's not starting to be had, it's been had, and so now hopefully we'll see the ramifications. But the fact that I was forced into this situation, or I felt backed into a corner, if I'm not going to sit around and wait, I'm going to be proactive about it. I think that's a blessing because I've learned a whole new skill set in the 7 years it took us to get to set, and now I'm developing and producing more stuff that I wouldn't necessarily have had the confidence to do this early if I hadn't have done that. So it's what they say is what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Absolutely. And though even there were dark days getting in darkness, finding the money and getting to set, when you look back you can actually see that everywhere that we were thwarted, we learned something, or we were stronger from it ultimately. It's a nice little philosophical life lesson for you.
There you go.
But you have to try and take that philosophy, else you're just crying into your cornflakes every day.
And when you're not crying into your cornflakes, how do you prepare for such a unique role like this as playing a blind individual? How do you go around preparing? You
are gifted with the wonderful support of the Royal National Institute of Blind People, who run their organisation out of King's Cross down in London. They helped us a lot, answered all our stupid questions, and really supported us and gave us access to the visually impaired and blind community, of which we're forever grateful. And you have some, we tried to show all respect and did our homework And then other than that, I just rely on Anthony. I rely on my director to make me look as authentic, help me look as authentic as possible.
Absolutely. Well, good luck tonight. It's a fantastic movie to watch with an audience, so enjoy yourself.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Come to Edinburgh. How does it feel bringing something that you've worked on for so long to the festival?
It's incredibly fulfilling and very rewarding for both of us. And it's a real thrill to be here at the Edinburgh Film Festival. And I was talking to Lee earlier, and I was just saying that it's really important that a festival that's an A-list festival like Edinburgh really legitimizes a film like ours at this level in the wider viewing public. And it's very important. And it's a real thrill to be here and a great festival.
Now, having written the film with Natalie, how was it then working on set together?
Easy. Because we've been together for so long and we know each other so well, oftentimes there's a kind of degree of telepathy involved where we'd often kind of look at each other across a room and there's crew and people moving stuff around, and it's really just in a look and the note is there, and then you go again and everything works out. Very few conversations because we both know the character so well. Nat owns the character and knows it better than I do. And so we were both boxing around corners and playing our respective roles. And also an amazing crew, great DOP, great first AD, and having that kind of creative team really driving it made the quite intense shoot really enjoyable and very creatively rewarding.
With your lead character being blind, how difficult was it getting the use of sound in the film right?
That was a big thing for me creatively, but it was also about the removal of that sense in a way creates a limitation for me as a director. As far as I can't shoot scenes just in a normal way or a standard way that we would. But that was the challenge that I wanted for myself as a director in order to come up with a visual grammar in order to tell a story and how to bring an audience along with Sofia and understand her environment and understand her world. And obviously sound plays a major factor in telling that story. And again, I was saying to me earlier about the fact that I'm really pleased that people have picked up on the sound, the design of the sound, because we spent a great deal of time working on it, and it was always going to be a huge element of the film. So it's great that it's being recognised and noticed.
And obviously it's going to be one of the most enjoyable films to watch with an audience here at the film festival due to all the twists and turns and, as you say, things like sound design. What's the kind of thrill of watching with an audience for you? Is it a nervous experience, or do you sort of find yourself going along with it going, oh, I forgot that happened?
To be honest, I haven't seen it with I saw it with test audiences.
Oh, yeah.
We tested it quite a lot, and then we had like a kind of friends and family screening, but by that stage I'd seen the movie like 100 times, so I've actually haven't seen it with an audience.
Oh, well, that'll be something to look forward to tonight.
Yeah, I don't even know if I'm watching it tonight.
I hope you had final cut, or it could be a huge surprise.
Well, we had, like I said, we had a great creative team, amazing bunch of producers, and we're all friends and we're all very close on the project. So it was fantastic to do it as a group. We were all making the same movie is ultimately what I'm trying to say. There was no division, there was nobody going, I think it needs to be something else.
And where does the film go on its journey now after Edinburgh?
I think ultimately it's iTunes, Amazon, Netflix, or whatever video on demand platform, and then ultimately streaming platform. The life of these movies unfortunately isn't theatrical, which is why it's really great to be here and have an audience see it on a big screen. But really it's going to be on your 50, 60 inch TV.
Just make sure you've got a good subwoofer.
Yeah, exactly.
No worries. Well, all the best for tonight. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.
Welcome to Nerd